Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. Previously, Combatant Agent 6 is sent on a mission by an evil corporation to infiltrate another world and set up a transporter there. He joins Princess Tilly's army to help them fight the Demon Lord, but finds that he won't be able to leave after he realizes that he now has negative evil points. The story continues as Six is upset to find that he had been transported to the planet on an unstable transporter. He would like for Astaroth to make it better by becoming his wife, but she refuses. Six explains that he won't be returning home just yet because he can't abandon his subordinates as he has become their leader. Alice told Astaroth everything though, and she assumes he just doesn't want to leave his harem behind. Six then asks where his reinforcements are, but Astaroth explains that they are close to conquering the world and all their other agents are busy fighting heroes. Later, Six duels the one mutant reinforcement member that had actually come along. He is Tiger Man, and the pair's duel is ended early after the sword Six is using is destroyed. Snow arrives very upset as she knows Six has her sword and reveals she still has a 5-year loan on it. He convinces her that the sword became a sentient being and went off on a journey of its own. It has returned, however after losing a battle with the Demon Lord, it sustained major damage. Snow is distraught, but luckily for her, Tiger Man offers his sword instead. The group would later celebrate a hard-earned victory, and Snow explains that she continues to be part of their unit because of instructions given to her by Princess Tilly. Alice then explains her reason for coming with them to the bar even though she doesn't eat or drink. She is there to conduct research. The food on this planet may not be safe for Earthlings' consumption, and Rose proves her to be correct when she reveals that it is actually orc meat. Afterwards, Snow accepts payment for helping Alice's investigation. They observe a couple monsters fight so Alice can gather more info, and eventually come upon a horrific sight. Snow explains that a group of barbarians called Head Splitters are the cause. The group begin to hear knocking sounds in the distance, and Alice realizes that someone is sending a signal to the rest of the tribe in order to inform others that they have located prey. Six finds himself all alone after selfishly running for his life, and encounters the crab monster from before. Six now realizes how little he knows about this planet, and begins to understand that he can befriend the beast, but Snow arrives to kill it. That night, the group feasts on crab, and Rose reveals that Grimm has been summoning the undead. Alice is a disciple of science though, and doesn't believe any of it. She even goes as far as to say that Grimm's Lord Zenarith is only a myth. Six serves as a witness as Grimm prepares to prove her god's miracles. However, Grimm loses her resolve when she can't sacrifice a bunny and requests him to do it instead. He refuses, but Alice doesn't hesitate for a second as she is an android. Grimm can't bear to watch and reveals that there may be an alternative method. A slab of meat is used instead, and Six is beginning to be convinced by the display. Alice is certain that Grimm is simply using LEDs, but Six is pleasantly surprised by the demon that is summoned. Grimm explains that she was only trying to summon an ancient evil spirit and has no clue who this demon is. The devil explains that she can grant any wish, and Six doesn't hesitate to ask for his own harem. She begins to explain that she will be taking Six's soul in exchange, but Alice interrupts by stating that the demon is only a hologram. Alice calls her a con artist, and the demon stops her heart in retaliation. She is unaffected though as she is an android and continues her investigation. Alice wishes for the devil to create 2 inhabitable planets, but she is asking for too much. She then wishes for all the demons to be eliminated, but the devil can't make that happen either. Alice insults her by making a final request to unclog the toilet in their hideout. The demon is insulted but reveals that she is only a greeter devil and leaves after Alice bullies her a bit more. Grimm feels good about her summoning, but Alice is still not convinced. Elsewhere, we get a glimpse as Tilly thinks about what she will have to do about her nation's water crisis. She would later attempt to use the rain artifact by using the lewd password that Agent 6 put on it. After some unsuccessful attempts, she concludes it must be done in front of an audience. She calls for Six and explains that aside from herself, the king is the only other person able to use the password, but he has disappeared. Instead, Snow is set to head to a neighboring nation to retrieve water stones, and Tilly asks Six to go with her. Negotiations will be difficult, and the prince of that nation is a bit of a womanizer. Tilly hopes that sending Snow will entice the prince into doing something bad, and they will be able to use that to their advantage. Later, the group have a blast as it's their first time on a motorized vehicle, and they finally arrive at the nation called Taurus. As they prepare for a party, Six explains that Grimm is far past her prime. She attempts to curse him with impotence, but misses badly. Grimm's presence proves to be a problem as her behavior is a bit strange, but Rose is not to be outdone. The real problem is Snow though, as she searches for the prince and all his wealth. She thinks the prince will be a handsome young man, but Alice explains that isn't the case, and Six decides to just let things play out. The prince arrives, and Six is shocked to see that Snow doesn't actually care about his appearance. Snow really pours on the compliments, and the prince is flattered by her advances. He only wants to talk business though, and explains that trouble awaits him if he fraternizes with an ally's messenger. Nearby, Grimm attempts to punish a man when he reveals that he is actually married, but only ends up having the curse to be soaked turned on her. The rest of the team acts out as well, and Six wonders what he did to deserve such a team. A bit later, Alice shows Six what she had found during an earlier investigation. She is unsure what it is, but Six explains that it is definitely a pod for holding creepy stuff. Just then, one of the Demon Lord's Elite Four arrives and expresses disappointment to see the person who had defeated the other members. His name is Russell, but Six doesn't care as he arrests Haney the second he sees her. He receives several evil points for using a woman as a hostage against a boy, and Haney attempts to explain that she isn't his enemy right now. She finally gets through to him, and Six confronts the prince, who is planning to sell the water stones to the demons. He intends to make peace with the demons, but Snow explains that it is hopeless. The demons' land is constantly being turned into a desert by the Sand King, and they have no choice but to conquer the land of the humans. Haney explains that they will agree to peace since nearby ruins hold the key to defeating the Sand King anyway. The prince is hesitant to side with the Kingdom of Grace, so Snow attempts to persuade him. Haney does the same, and Six grows jealous that it isn't him instead. The prince explains that diplomatic concerns are not to be handled this way, and everyone is surprised that he isn't living up to his reputation. He explains that something happened to him right before the party and he is no longer a degenerate. The prince isn't interested in the girls at all, and Six tells Alice to prepare as he is about to lose it. Alice confirms that she has his back, and Six gains several evil points by embarrassing the prince. His actions result in the nation declaring war on Grace and halting all exports. They demand an apology and want Grace's ambassadors to turn themselves in. Six emphasizes the need to look towards the future and ignore the past, but Snow wants him to take responsibility for his actions. Tilly demotes Snow as punishment for the horribly failed mission and explains that they have time to prepare since Taurus won't be able to attack immediately. Snow tells Tilly to just say the lewd password and use the artifact, but she ignores her. Instead, she wants him to go on a mission to retrieve a water nut deep in the Sand King's territory. The nut is able to hold large amounts of water, and the unit sets out on the mission. Rose is concerned that it is a suicide mission, but it's explained that the Sand King is only active during the day and they can avoid it by moving in the night. They arrive at the desert and collect several water nuts. The water inside is suppressed by magic, but Alice once again doesn't believe it. Grimm promises that she will learn one day, and Rose warns that she senses deliciously powerful magic nearby. The ground begins to shake, and Grimm wants Alice to finally repent for her sins. It isn't her Lord Zareth though, it's the Sand King, and it is seemingly upset to have its water nuts taken. With no hope of escaping, they must ditch the buggy. They are all safe, but have lost all but one water nut. They begin their treacherous journey across the desert to return to Grace, and Snow becomes jealous of Six's temperature-adjusting suit. Alice is completely fine though, but decides to call in a tent for the meatbags in her group. With the water nut, all they really need now is to eat, and Six decides they will devour the very first thing they see. However, he quickly changes his mind when that first thing happens to be an orc. Things are getting worse, and Alice determines that they must resort to their last option. Six must use his degenerate behavior to earn evil points that he can use to call in food or maybe even another buggy. He shocks everyone with his disgusting act, and they earn just enough to survive for a few more days. 4 days of wandering the desert and things continue to worsen. Six has stopped earning points for evil deeds and now wishes he could eat some orc. He isn't even able to go into negative evil points anymore, and he blames Astaroth. Six points out how Rose is staring at Grimm quite a bit and assumes she must be really worried about her friend. Snow attempts to help Six earn some points, but it doesn't work, and he concludes that she must actually be into it. Six would then later think about how Rose was staring at the two of them as they fought and recognizes that look from somewhere. He assumes that she is just feeling lonely, but determines that she looks too young to earn evil points off of. That only leaves Snow, and he confronts her that night. Her patience has run out though, and Six prepares for his most evil act yet. He uses expert techniques in persuasion to remind her of how they can have food and shelter, but she is still reluctant. He almost convinces her by offering surprise weapons and money to pay off loans, but she regathers herself and denies him again. She loses consciousness though, and Alice points out how much of a coward Six is for not taking advantage of the opportunity. She points out how that is the reason he never gets promoted, and Rose finally comes forward with what's been on her mind. Six encourages her to follow her feelings, and Rose thanks him for taking away any guilt she felt. She decides to go all out and promises Six that she will make it as painless as possible. Alice intervenes to ask what they both think is about to happen, and they have very different answers. Rose intends to enter into mortal combat with Six since the winner will be allowed to eat the loser. There is a clear misunderstanding, and Six attempts at getting away prove useless. Six has had enough and decides the only thing he can do now is just win the fight. They both claim to be proud warriors and their fight begins. Luckily for them, the fight earns Six several evil points and they are able to call on another buggy. Six commends Rose on being a worthy opponent and the group finally return to Grace. They have failed their mission though, and the impending attack on Grace is still approaching quickly. Six doesn't want to help, but he caused the conflict and must now take responsibility. Tilly then explains to them their next mission and reveals a map of Taurus. There are ancient ruins there that are currently being investigated by some demon leaders. Alice remembers how they are searching for an ancient weapon that will defeat the Sand King, and Tilly wants them to stop the demons. Six assumes that they must just smash the weapon, but Alice explains that they should just take the powerful weapon for themselves. Thanks for watching part 3, part 4 will be in a pinned comment below.